Hey everyone, my name is Todd Wall. Welcome to Communication Breakthrough, where we believe that intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your business and in your life. Now, in leading your business, whether you're starting, whatever stage you're in, there are critical elements that every business must have. The problem is you get into whatever work environment you got the tyranny of the urgent, you've got this problem, this problem, this problem, and you're always chasing something. But if we don't take an intentional approach to the critical elements that we need in our business, we're going to end up misshaped. If we end up misshaped, I don't think this thing's going to keep rolling the way you want it to. Let's look at it together. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. So, intentional communication in this environment is an intentional look at the critical elements of every business. If you don't take an intentional look at the specific critical elements, it may take on a life of its own. One element may end up larger than another one. Your company may end up misshaped and it won't roll the way you want it to. Today, my first guest. I've got Ryan Conn with CS Business Consultant. Let me bring him on now. Ray Ryan, hey, I cannot wait to get into this because these are elements that often we just get so busy and they move right past us. We must take an intentional approach to these critical elements of our business. And I specifically wanted to bring you on because there's an area you work with clients on that you call the 5 M's. What are these 5 M's, which are critical elements of a business?
Great question, and I love your metaphor rolling in here about the tyranny of the urgency, and that is going to help to relieve some of this through the 5 M's. But the first M, and the most important, is mindset. Not just the business owner, but the staff and the clients have to have a mindset of value, that you're providing some type of actual value to them. And there's a lot of details that go into developing that mindset, conveying that mindset, and growing that mindset. But that is so important. The next is materials. You have to actually have something to sell. And of course, your materials could be a service backed up by software and templates and things like that. Or it could be, the lawn mowing or the construction or some type of inventory retail business. You got to have something that you're selling, and then you have to have the components, the materials that back that up, the logistical support for the materials you sell. That's all under the M of materials. The next one is methodology, and this is really a place where people get convoluted. They don't develop a nice workflow. They don't develop a nice logistical, tactical plan to get their products developed and moved and pushed out, and really they don't have a good methodology to develop themselves, to bring in clients through marketing or whatever that is. And then the fourth M is mentoring. And mentoring really has a three-prong approach. Of course, you're going to mentor within. You're going to mentor your staff and grow them and develop them and try to empower them along the way. But you're going to mentor your clients and how to best communicate and interact with you. Mentor your clients on how to utilize what you provide in your materials as their best use and best value to them. And then the last one is measured growth. Sometimes we're not pushing ourselves hard enough and we're not reaching our goals and how we want to grow. And sometimes things explode on us and we're just taking in all the work we can, and before we know it, we've got a mountain of chaos because we didn't measure and pace our growth. And so those are the 5 M's that if you master those, you're going to have a non-lumpy business that can just roll on and grow forever.
And I can see real clearly in these that it actually leads to the most critical M, which is margin, which is the profitability of your business. And so I like these five M's. First off, that value conversation of we're actually doing something good here. There's a cause we're fighting for. There's value that we're contributing to the world. And that's especially critical in this Gen Z generation that's coming in, that you have to give them a why to believe in.
Yes, I hammer that down so much with people is the why. Understanding the why is part behind the mindset, because if you're just doing this just to make a buck, people are going to see that and it's not going to be a highly valuable business. It's going to be a commodity. It's going to be some type of fast food cheeseburger that you can get on any corner, right? You want to have a high value service. Think about, instead of the cheeseburger, the fanciest restaurant you've ever been to. I'm talking, napkin on the sleeve and everything, right? If you have that the mindset of yourself, that I'm going to provide an entire relationship, whether it's the valet letting you out of the door, the person sitting at the table, taking your order, cooking the food, taking the trash out at the end of the night. Every single person wrapped up to give you that high level experience. And here's the cool part about mindset, especially for the entrepreneur. In that restaurant model, we have a great experience. We write reviews online and we tell our friends to go there. And maybe we had an anniversary and made memories. At no point did we get the undivided attention of the restaurant owner, right? They may have come out and shook hands and said hi, but the mindset that you have to be stuck in all of your daily operations and in the grind all the time is wrong. You want to be working on the business and not in the business, even though you might have to get in it from time to time.
But then that second M, it requires you to do the deep work on the front end of your materials, so you're not blowing your margins with the different elements that you're choosing. How do you lead person in developing this materials so that, like I said, you don't blow your whole budget just because you make the wrong widget?
That is fantastic. So the materials, the actual what you're selling, and then the materials that you're using to support that selling. So of course, if you're selling t-shirts, there's some type of screen press. Those are both materials, the actual inventory item and the process to get there. But examining that and looking for efficiencies, right? You can always be effective in accomplishing your goal of getting the t-shirt to the customer, but if you weren't efficient in doing that, you might have lost money in the sale instead of made a profit. So examining your materials, your deliverables, your actual tools and resources, or your software programs. Are you utilizing AI technology? Are you utilizing remote work? Are you utilizing bulk shipping and warehouse pricing? Or are you just buying items left and right from the local store at that top retail value? And looking at your materials and how to assemble them just takes an analysis. You have to diagnose yourself and see where you're sick. And once you see where you're sick, you can now stop treating the symptoms and start treating the causes and get your materials built around that.
I love that, not chasing the symptoms, but to the causes. Because if we're not intentional in this step, we can blow our budget super quick. And I love the intentionality, because those materials could also be people. So if you know specifically where those margins are, you can work backwards and effectively build out that critical element of the proper materials that you actually need. Then I love this next one, the methodology, because I'm a communication nerd, communication coach. So the philosophy that you lead people through. So talk to me more about this methodology.
Sure. So methodology is a huge breakdown, and I can't emphasize enough how much this is a breakdown. People will go through and they may build multi-million-dollar buildings as a construction company, but they've never laid out a workflow. Right? And so let's say that foreman, or heaven forbid, that construction owner pass away or get sick. Nobody has a path, an actual method to pick it up and run with it and get from A to Z in the same philosophy. Nobody has a rubric or a syllabus to go by to sit here and drive their job forward. So the methodology might be something as well as, hey, we're only going to use this software program. Hey, we're only going to use this training tool. We're only going to use whatever it is, but we're going to deliver it from A to Z in this capacity. And you have to go down and blow up your entire process and write down every task. And I usually can do this with somebody in usually 3 to 4 hours, is we blow up their entire workflow, get rid of duplications. We identify specific funnel or choke points where things are coming to a halt because they all have to come through some area. And we see, can we expand the funnel? Can we move the choke point to 2 or 3 different people? Can we create a methodology around this? And sometimes there are purposeful funnels. In the accounting world, when you finally submit that compliance report to whatever government entity, it has to go through a funnel to make sure it is completely reviewed, completely accurate, because we have to have pure accuracy. So purposeful funnels versus accidental funnels, and getting that methodology put down on paper so you and everyone can rely on it and hold each other accountable to it.
And the fifth, actually the fourth, is that mentoring, is the developing of your people, not just giving them a training manual, but having a person leading another person I like how you make that the critical M of mentoring. It has such a relational approach, but you said there's several aspects to that. What are they?
There are three primary aspects, and they're all dealing with people, which you mentioned, kind of a little tongue-in-cheek. People are our most important material. It kind of sounds weird. They're the most important resource. I agree with you 100%. And so if we're going to do that, we have to have an entire M devoted to people, which is mentoring. And you mentor your staff internally. And we do a quick philosophy. One of our major mentoring ways we do it is called the fly on the wall method, where they just sit and they observe. They just watch me do whatever skill or whatever task or sales pitch that it is. And I tell the client, hey, they're just going to be observing. I'm teaching them how to do this, so they're going to observe. Most people are ecstatic. They observe. After they've observed several, I say, hey, there's 3 points to this presentation. You take the first point, I'll do the back 2. If you mess up the first point, I'm here to save you. And you feed them more and more work over time till they're doing the whole presentation. I'm here to support them. I'm the fly on the wall now, right? And eventually, multiple staff members have been mentored into how to execute. And it's just really great that you can put them together and grow them and empower them. And you can do that in multiple capacities.
I like that fly on the wall methodology. Okay, so now the last part is the measuring your growth. This goes back in your numbers background. If you don't have your critical eye on the actual numbers, so what are the critical numbers and growth that they actually need to keep a focus on?
So the measured growth is internal. You have to put actual goals and metrics for your people to achieve. I need you to complete this training program or this sales pitch or this skill by this date. The other measured growth is, hey, we want to take 2 new clients per week until we've achieved 120 clients this year, something of that nature, right? And you go, and then if you're not reaching that goal, you push harder. If you're getting too fast beyond that goal, you got to pump the brakes a little bit or hire and train more people. And then you measure your growth ultimately through the loose metric of how much money are you making. Because if you've done the materials and the efficiencies along the way, the profit margin will actually grow. It's not like a factory where you just make more widgets to make more money. You're doing all 5 M's at the same time and tracking the metrics of I have more efficient materials, I have more efficient methodology, we all have a value-based mindset, so we're getting a much higher pricing for our goals. And if you put metrics behind all of those, hey, what was our sales for this new service, this new pitch last year versus this year, and now we've sold this many more, the profits will track themselves.
Man, I know we just flew through that, but in breaking down the 5 M's, I see why so many people work with you to really identify those critical elements, because there's a lot to it. I know we just touched on the high points, but man, Ryan, thank you so much for the time to walk us through those 5 elements, and anybody who works with you in those is going to absolutely benefit, because those are powerful leverages.
Thank you, Todd. It's always my pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, stick with us. Let's keep looking at these critical elements from different perspectives that we can be intentional on to grow your business. Let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody. I really enjoyed Ryan's 5 M's. It provided just a really valuable framework to be able to plug and play. Anytime you can provide a framework that really can be a fill-in-the-blank system for yourself or for the team, it's extremely powerful. And Ryan does this with his clients all the time. So I love that 5-part, those 5 M's that he laid out. Now, in this segment, I'm going to lay out what I believe is the critical element of every business is connection. Connection in 2 parts. First, connection with your team. Connection with your team is extremely important, because if you're just hiring people and not really connecting with them, they're going to feel like you're a jerk, or you're not going to understand where they're coming from. And there's always going to be this disconnection. They're never going to really know where they're going, and they're really never going to reach their full potential. The most critical element of any business, I feel, is connection, because it starts with a connection to your teammate or your team members. So here's the first element of that I believe is extremely important. Every person that you hired for a reason. Unless you're horrible at hiring people, you chose good people. Therefore, In order for them to get the job done the way that you want it to get done, you need to lead them in a specific way. You need to connect with them in a very specific way. I say specific, intentional, because every person you work with is a unique person. They all have different drivers. They all have different histories. They all have different strengths and values and assets to offer you. They all connect in a different way. So connecting with each individual in your team, what's going to bring that person alive? What really discourages that person, or what encourages that person? What gives that person clarity, and what makes that person feel confused? If they feel confused, they're going to get hesitant, and you're going to be like, oh, this person can't do anything. They're probably actually just confused on what they need to do. Who is that person? What does it take to connect to them? And then what does it really take to really flip the switch with them? Do you treat them as unique individuals, or are you just trying to cookie cut this whole process? Now, the next specific part is there are specific steps to every role in every job. You can't just tell someone, I want you to lead XYZ, and expect them to lead the way you want to, because you probably have a clear vision of what they need to do to lead. You can't just tell them, go do XYZ, and expect it to just be done exactly the way you want it to be done. Critical steps and critical actions are important for laying out a very clear path that you want your team members to follow. If they have a clear path with critical actions that they need to take along the way, it's going to remove the confusion. It's going to remove the hesitation. It's going to remove the outbursts of emotion, because they're not having to figure things out. You've laid out a clear path for them to follow. Oftentimes, when we're not getting the results that we're wanting, it's a clarity issue. It's a clarity of action issue that's actually at play. So intentionally map out the steps that they need to take. And you say, oh, doesn't that make me a micromanager? No, micromanagement is what you do after that list is provided. It's how you lead them after that is what makes you a micromanager or an empowering leader. So that's a whole different conversation. But critical actions must be laid out in detail. Even if it's down to sweeping the floor, I want you to use this broom to put it in this trash can, and from that trash can over into that dumpster or that bag. And the bags are right here and here. It just needs to be specific. You can't leave it to assumption. Just be intentional and lay out a clear path, and you're going to find a different connection that creates a different result. The next thing is giving their role meaning. It is critical to create connection with the ultimate cause or meaning that they're actually fighting for. What in your company, what are they fighting for? What's the problem they're solving for that customer, and how does it feel to them? Especially in today's Gen Z world. This is the generation of whatever, I don't care. That generation. Yet, if you give them a cause, they'll burn a building down. This is the same generations that's leading protests right and left. They just need something to believe in. So give them meaning and purpose, and you're going to see a whole different person. The next thing is connection to your customer. And very quickly, I recommend what we call the SPICED framework, an impact-focused communication. Impact is as your customer defines it. How does your customer define impact? The impact that they're looking for. P, so it's what is this SPICED? What is the situation of this customer? What is the pain that they are feeling, as in what's making them, what's the actual emotion that's causing them to reach out to you in the first place? And then I, impact. Impact as the customer defines it. If you have a reoccurring revenue model like Netflix or anything that causes that customer to come on a regular basis, people cancel when they're no longer getting impact. You cancel Netflix when it no longer has the shows that make an impact on your life. So what's the impact that your customer is asking for you, asking from you? Situation, pain, impact, and then CE, critical event. What are the critical events that your customer is looking for that tell them whether this is a success or a failure? They're looking for XYZ to happen at 1, 2, 3. Well, what are the things that what needs to happen and when is the simple formula of that? What needs to happen and when? If you have continually or intentional in looking for what needs to happen and when, according to the expectations of the customer, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. You're also going to have a simple explanation when things don't go right. When they get upset, oh, we didn't deliver what needs to happen and when, according to the impact as they defined it. That's the CE, the critical event. So situation, the pain that they're feeling, the impact that they're looking for in their words, CE, the critical event, what needs to happen and when. And then my favorite one is D for decision. What are the decision-making criteria that they hold in this secret little pocket underneath their jacket that makes them decide if this is a success or a failure? I have a criteria in my mind each morning when I decide which shoes to put on. Everyone you deal with, every customer you engage with has a list of criteria in their mind of what will determine if this business is providing a success or a failure. Are they delivering on what I've decided needs to happen and when it needs to happen, or is it taking forever for this to happen? What is the impact that they're looking for according to their words? And ask them that question and get them to repeat it back to you. Are you listening in a way that paraphrases back to that person so you know there's a connection of understanding back and forth? So it's not you talking at that person, but you're having an actual dialogue. And it's two humans intentionally talking to each other and exchanging goods and services in the way that is expected. Because they've got a pain that they're feeling. And if there's emotion, then you need to react to that emotion. So you're looking for that pain because what if that emotion is high? That means you need to act with urgency. If that emotion is low, well, that sets a different timeline. And it sets a different tone for the conversation and for the interaction and for the exchange as a whole. The most critical element of any business, as I see it as a communication coach, is connection. Connection will determine connection, one human to another human, one problem to a solution. That is the critical and driving factor of whatever widget you're selling or whatever service you're providing. Are you fulfilling the impact that they're looking for with team members who are living on purpose, who are living by their personal code and are switched on because they know that they're a real and important person in your community and on your team? I believe connection is the most critical factor. Stick with us because right after this, it's interesting, a new trend that's taking place in business. How can you get the strength and the knowledge of a top level executive on the cheap with very little money? What does it take to do that? Our next guest is going to show you exactly how to do it. Stick with us. right, everybody, thanks for sticking with us. Let's keep jumping into these critical aspects that you need to have a thriving business. There's a new opportunity in today's digital world with you need critical employees, critical team members that can drive you forward. But depending on the status of your company, you can't always honestly afford it right now. So there's this new dynamic that's been created with these fractional CEOs, fractional CFOs, fractional chief marketing officers. And so today in this segment, I want to bring a fractional chief marketing officer in and kind of give you some insight on what does that really look like, and really so that you don't have to afford this big audacious salary. You can get it on a fractional level, yet get the expertise of these high level experts. So let me bring Christine Marie. Christine, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me, Todd.
Hey, I can't wait to hear your insight on this, because this concept of the fractional employee or fractional maybe chief officer of whatever level they're needing, it's really a new opportunity, because they can get high level people like you. But really, since it's so new, fill us in on what that really looks like. How thinly can you slice this thing and still get the expertise? So you're a chief marketing officer for a number of companies.
Yeah.
What is that role? First, define it for us.
Yeah. So the way that it specifically looks for us, I love that you said, how can you thinly slice this? Because I do believe that it could look slightly different, even though it's the same role. It could look slightly different for another person coming in. But what we do for our clients is we come in and first we do a 90-day assessment and audit of the company to ensure that we fully understand who they are, who their audience is, every part of their marketing aspects, activations that they've been running, and historical data. And then we give them the marketing plan. And then we say, hire us to execute, or you guys can take it from there. That is relatively unique to us. But for anyone coming into a fractional position, they will need to be doing this anyways. So doing that deep dive and then coming in and actually executing the marketing strategy that we've curated, in addition to managing their budget, in addition to managing their team, hiring, firing, and then also reporting directly to leadership. Essentially, we are 1000% CMO. We just have a fractional title, and it's our entire team as opposed to one person. Now, I have a fractional CFO, and it's just her. And so, have her on a certain number of hours and certain number of calls every month. And then
okay, so that leads me to the key question. We really need to define the fractional part.
Yes.
Really first is what it sounds like. So you're bringing your team with you, but only allocating X number of hours towards the company once you've assessed the overall strategy, because a lot of this is the hard work's on the front end anyway.
Yes. Well, and so we do it by hours, we ourselves, but for example, my fractional CFO, she does it based on outcomes. So I'm going to give you these number of outcomes every month. And so I hear people say, don't do it by the hours, but I got to tell you, if I had done it not by the hours, I would have undercharged them, because they've wanted to utilize us a lot. And so it's been really helpful to have the hours as a boundary line. And then if they want to increase their hours in a month, they can.
So it's about finding that what's most healthy, maybe for the company. Some people are concept driven, some people are detail driven. So maybe it goes into the personality of the leadership, because some people will take advantage of you in a heartbeat. But then I like this concept idea, especially in this digital remote world that we live in, because it is a lot more outcome driven. Because no one's really clocking in and out. It's very difficult to manage that. So I like that concept. But so I like that there's two different ways of managing that. So if a person hires a CMO, like you said, you go do a deep dive, you get a real good picture of the direction things need to go. But I like the authority that also needs to be given within this role. So
Right.
you're reporting to the top layer, but then you're still acting as if you're on that top layer with them? It's just, how is that communication and relationship managed with the team?
What a good way to put that. It's funny. I'm very, one particular company I was in with the executive vice president, who's now the president. I went in and was chatting with him. He was like, you could fire me. He was like, but at the same time, I could fire you. And so we laughed, because technically I was more senior than him, and he'd been with the company for however many years, and now he's president of the company. But yeah, it was funny, and just being really open and not having this weird, like, oh, we have to dance around the issue. It's no, everyone knows that I'm fractional CMO. And actually it's a healthier dynamic than at previous, another client of ours. We were very integrated, and actually we were working on one of the world's leading brands together. And she was trying to hide the fact that we were a partner, and that she was a client of ours, and she was bringing us in to help her. She wasn't candid with that. And so it always was like this weird tiptoeing where I wanted to respect her wishes. But then when we were all boots on the ground, it did lend to some awkward conversations where I was just like, I won't say much, and just let her guide it how she wanted to. But it's been good in this dynamic where everyone knows we're fractional. Everyone knows that, frankly, we are coming in and we could fire anyone on the team, but we're also giving them raises and overseeing all of that.
So does the leader or the owner of the company, they want to approach it like they're bringing in a consultant who has authority? Would that be but it sounds like transparency of communication and clarifying what the role is critical.
Yes, absolutely. And too, with the boundaries piece, it's really important for you acting as a fractional, whatever the role is. It's really important that you do have the boundaries, because there is always more work to do. This is why people hire in-house staff members, is because they need so much work done, right? And so especially I had 4 ladies dedicated to this account at one point. And so if they all pass their boundaries individually, well, geez, then I'm out. I'm actually in the red and paying this company for us to work for them. So I've got to have me and my team be very strict and clear on our boundaries. And that lends to your point of what are critical, essential pieces of a business, having really clear ways in which your team is attributing their time to their tasks for which clients. That's been something that's been really important for us, given this very discussion.
Yeah, because like you said, it's so easy to ultimately take advantage of somebody. So what are the advantages to a business owner to hiring a fractional? Is there always a C attached to it? Or I guess it would just be a temp otherwise, right? So hiring a fractional C-suite, top level leadership. We'll just clarify that. Because it could be a business owner. Well, I'm the CEO. Well, you're the one in charge. So I guess it'd still be that. Let's just clarify top level leadership.
Yes.
So what are the advantages to them? They're getting it cheaper. They're getting expertise. What are the other advantages? Why would a certain person want to do this?
Yeah. And I think one thing that is important to note is that if they were to hire me full time, it would be very expensive, right? But at the same point, if you're hiring any C-suite, you're upwards of at least $350 minimum. That's like starting salary. I mean, a couple colleagues of mine here in DC, they're making close to $1 million as C-suite. So it's expensive to hire really good C-level. But if you're hiring someone for a certain number of hours a month, you get the expertise. It's being taken, because honestly, before I joined, they knew that they needed this position, but they were so early on into the exploration that I was able to really come in and guide them and say, you know what, actually, I don't think you need someone full time. And you're able to save a lot. You're able to save over 6 figures for sure, if not, probably 200, 300, 400,000 by hiring us. And then you're getting 5 people for the price of 1. And so what a blessing that is, right? And so I don't want people to think of it as a cost effective hire, because it is still expensive in one sense, but at the same time, you are saving dollars. So it's kind of that yin and yang there. And then a few other benefits is that you're getting someone who is entirely objective. We are all so subjective, and we're all a lot of times emotionally tied to our business. And so it's really, really beautiful. It's hard and requires humility. But having somebody come in and analyze your business and say, you know what, I'm committed to your mission and I'm going to make it as though it were my own, and I'm going to whip it into shape. And it's been really, really amazing to experience a few of our partnerships where I've seen so much humility witnessed from the leadership to have us come in and say, look, this is what's wrong. But if we do not know the truth, we can then not be changed by it. So us coming in objectively to experience what is the truth, what is happening here, and then, hey, here's what you all need to do to kind of to whip it up into shape. And so that's the objectivity of having a third party is so critical. And then another benefit too is us coming in and saying, hey, we want to talk to your customers. We can tell the customers, hey, we're a third party. Can you tell us really candidly what your experience has been? It's not going to be attributed to you. And then we do the same thing with the employees. And it's really helpful for leadership to know what their customers and employees think about them through a third party. It's all anonymous and it's safe.
I love that. So it is a unique type of scenario. It's not one size fits all. It doesn't fit every company, but if you're needing that high level expertise, you don't have to go all in and just break the bank. You can kind of tiptoe into the water. So thank you for shining a light into that world. And this is a critical aspect of growing a business and a unique opportunity that we have in today's market.
Absolutely. It really is very unique. And I love what you said in terms of shining a light on this topic, because so many people think that they have to go all in. And, you know, the cost to hire someone, it's expensive to do the job searching and the hiring. And it's just such a process. And then if it doesn't work out, then you've got that whole cost all over again. So hiring a consultant to come in quick, it saves a lot of money in the long haul too.
Christine Marie with the Knowing Agency. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, stick with us. Let's look at some different critical aspects that your company must have. Stick with us. All right, welcome back, everybody. I want to jump right into this because we can't convert in business or in our life if we don't create a connection with the person in front of us. And empathy is a critical factor in creating a connection because it puts the other person first. My next guest, Amy Singleton, she leads a digital marketing agency and hosts a podcast, the Queen's Lead podcast. Let me bring her on now. Amy, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fabulous, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So both in your life and in your business, why is empathy a critical factor for creating connection?
Man, I think so many of us have forgotten that we are working, doing business, living amongst other human beings. We're all just human beings and we're all on a journey of life, man. And everyone is dealing with something. It's easy to throw out a meme that says, be kind, everyone's dealing with something. But when it comes down to it, down to your relationships, whether it be at work, in your family, at home, everybody is on their own journey, and recognizing that we're all humans doing the very best thing, very best things and the very best job that we can do every single day is so important and so critical to relationships.
So, but what's the impact of empathy? Why would I mean, because I want to ring the cash register. You know, I want to treat customers like it's Walmart and they're just bringing the cheese and the milk across the little scanner. Why? How does empathy help me create a connection, though?
Man, because the only human need is to be seen and heard and understood, that we all just need to see that. And the power that creates through people is just, it's intangible. You know, whether you are running a register or whatever, you know, do it for selfish reasons. Those people are going to tell people about your business when they feel seen and heard in your space. If you're running a retail register, I can't tell you how many places I've been that there's not even eye contact made amongst people. When we make eye contact with people, we're telling them, I see you. I hear you. I understand you. We have to do that to ourselves first. And I think that's where so much of the empathy has been lost, is that we no longer see ourselves and empathize with ourselves. And so it's really difficult to do that with others until we can do that for ourselves.
I think that's a great picture. Just empathy helps them feel and know that they're seen, and that creates a spark or an interest and a drive. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about how you do that. So first off, in order to figure out how you do that, in order to get into somebody else's life, there's something specific you have to believe. What do you need to believe in order to be interested in somebody else? In order to
I think this goes back to, I believe it was Mel Robbins that said, always assume positive intent. No, it wasn't. It was Brene Brown. I'm sorry. Brene Brown said on a call, I was lucky enough to be in a Zoom room with her a couple of weeks ago with a group I'm involved with. And she said, always assume positive intent. Assume that people are good. I think we've all gotten this terrible, especially within the last few years. We all know what has happened and how disconnected we become and just how disjointed we became from others and ourselves. Just knowing that that someone out there is not bad is really important. We've all become, I hear people say all the time, I hate people. Oh, I hate people. Oh, I hate traffic. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate that. When you have enough empathy to realize that you are traffic, you are people, you can recognize that everybody in that traffic lane is on their own journey. They're all just as wrapped up in themselves as you are in you. And so it takes somebody to go first with that empathy and not hating people and loving people and always assume that people have a positive intent behind what they're doing.
I think that's a great starting place. And you even gave some very tactical things within that, but starting with the belief that they're valuable, that they are somebody, and like you said in the traffic, that they're on their own journey and that there's probably something significant there. Instead of looking at profiling and looking at how a person looks visually, it's like, what is their story? I believe that this person is great. So it's almost creating this curiosity. So how do you practically and tactically treat people with empathy? What are, if you had some steps that you offered people, what steps would you offer on how to offer empathy?
First of all, make eye contact with people. Speak to people. If you're in a waiting room or in a line, put this thing down and look up. Look up wherever you are. Look around you. Make eye contact with people. Give someone a genuine compliment. If you love their shoes, their dress, their hair, their eyes, they look strong today. If it's someone speaking life into someone, you might be the only person that makes eye contact with that person today. You might be the only person that speaks life into them and that it notices something about them. And when you can give that kind of gift to someone else, it truly, I don't think people understand how much more it gives back to you, even more than it probably gave to that person. You can truly begin to see other people by just making eye contact, starting a conversation, asking a question. Some people are going to look at you like you're crazy. That's okay. It's a numbers game. It's hard to spread around the joy sometimes, but looking in people in the eye, giving them a genuine compliment and showing genuine curiosity about what's going on in their life is the best place to start.
Those are two very practical things. One, I mean, how often do you go to the restaurant and you see an entire family and they're all just on their phones? There's not much connection going on there. Therefore, there's not much empathy going on there. Therefore, as soon as that kid messes up, the dad or the mom is going to yell at him because there's no empathy going on because no one knows the story. Or the moment the dad gives discipline in any sort, then the son isn't going to give any empathy towards it. You see the cycle. There's a cycle that's actually created.
Absolutely.
I love how you said it starts with eye contact, creating that connection, but then being willing to actually speak something. Like you said, speak life,
Mhm.
speak an encouragement, risk being creepy.
Yeah, yeah, just risk being the weirdo, like, just do it, be like Nike, just do it.
Just do it. I love that. Those are two
Do
great
it.
steps.
Yeah.
Give me a third? What's one more? How to
Mm.
create empathy? So what's something practical so you can create empathy and connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this one comes to me through my children. So, trying to put yourself in the experience and the place where that person is. That's a really hard thing to do. A lot of people say, we aren't. I forget what the saying is, but basically we're just a sum of our own experience. So we don't know their experience. But here's a very practical example. So many of us are parents. Many of us have teenage children, maybe preteen to teenage or early 20s children. And those children might be falling in love for the first time. They have their first love, right? And maybe we love the girlfriend or we hate the girlfriend, but they're in love, right? And we as parents are very quick to dismiss that. Oh my goodness, you're in high school. This isn't going to last forever. It's just a fling. But we as parents, we have decades of experience in love and loss and life, right? So we understand that yes, that love probably will go away. But from the perspective of a 17-year-old boy, that's the first girl he's ever loved. And so as passionately as we love our spouses or their dad or their our partner, that's how passionately that teenager is loving that girl right now, or that partner, that girlfriend or boyfriend that they have, because that's the sum of their experience. They don't know what it's like to break up. They don't know what it's like to have a 20-year marriage. But so trying to see truly from the other person's perspective, and if you don't know their perspective, don't be afraid to ask, hey, I understand you're from Nicaragua. Tell me about your culture. What does this mean to you? Why is this important to you? Why is this affecting you? How are you feeling about that? And then really shutting our mouths. We have two ears and one mouth. So listening so much more. When you ask that question or give that compliment, listen.
I think there's a lot of, I think there's more to break open in that one moment, in that aspect of, it's like, it's valuing that place that they're at. And you almost have to believe something very specific about that there's curiosity again, coming back to interesting. You're at a very interesting place. You may see down the road, but tell me more about this moment that you're in.
Yeah. And why is that important to you? That's a beautiful question to ask people, because we don't know where they're coming from and what their values are, why something is significant for them, because all we have is our experience. We don't know theirs.
Yeah. We're not trying to determine who's right, wrong, who's on top of the heap, and dissecting that belief that this isn't a competition. We're not parents competing with our kids. We're not actually business owners, even though we're trying to grow our business. But if my next door neighbor grows, I'll ultimately grow. That traffic will trickle over.
Absolutely.
We're not in competition. So it's figuring out what's the stage that you're at and celebrating it, finding curiosity in that moment, and really living in it with that person a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Hold their hand through it. We're all humans on a human experience. It's tough out there. We need one another.
I absolutely love that. Amy, so you speak about things like this on your Queen's Lead podcast all the time. How can people find you on the podcast?
Absolutely. They can find anything about me, the podcast, the agency, or me at amysingleton.net.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate it, Amy.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.